Today is going to be a little bit of a check-in and tune in as to the energetic pulse of what we're in, because there's a lot going on, folks, right? So as I'm tuning in right now, I was kind of chuckling to myself thinking, God, we've got to be like these mental ninjas right now. And I say mental because we're in this kind of battle of consciousness. There's so much in the thought realm right now. And really the antidote to that, or the grounding, the anchor point to that, is to be embodied in feeling. So I wanna dive into that, but I want to just talk about like these times and the effect it has on us and the extraordinary stamina that is required right now, but also as things feel worse, they're actually getting better. I know that sounds really weird, but it's always the kind of the C before the do in the octave. Or as someone was describing the other day, a woman called Sima was talking about that. It's like before the fever breaks, that the fever actually means you're moving through whatever your body is trying to release. And so it's actually really good, but it's the most intense moment before it gets better. And you think you cannot take any more. You really think you cannot take any more. And then that's when there's the release valve that gets opened. And I think this year is the big transition year. It's the year of completion in numerology. There is so much happening on so many levels, on so many dimensions. So how do we navigate this is going to be the core of this theme, but let's see where it takes us. So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So I've got a little bit of a cold, as you can probably hear, which I really never, ever get. So it's definitely representative of this time of purging. And I remember when this word kind of was being thrown around a lot, purging, we're purging. I was I don't like that word. It's not really how I don't resonate with it. But I am going to use it because it's a term that is being used a lot. And I think that whether it's purging, cleansing, healing, releasing, we're in this moment of alchemy, is what I would call it. These times, I think we will look back upon as the biggest, most transformative shift in humanity's history. And the moment that we really truly understand the power of alchemization and transmutation, because that's really what's happening. And it's no small feat, y'all. So it's kind of, when we might find ourselves, banging our head up against the wall going like, what the hell? Like what I felt this last week was like, what the hell? What is the point? What is the point? And today, if you're into astrology, I'm recording this on a Monday. It will come out on a Tuesday, but Mars is going direct. It's been in retrograde. And I don't know about some of you guys, but like for the last couple months, it's just been this feeling of kind of slow, tedious because it's slow and unclear and kind of irritable. Apathetic at times, which is one of my least favorite states of being or feeling. And like nothing is moving. There's been no forward movement. It's been still and stagnant. And so some of you might resonate, some of you might not. We're all in different places, in different phases. And I think there's so many different factors, but from an astrological point, I know a handful of people that have really been feeling that and just like, come on, ready for some forward movement and some flow again. And as I say that, part of the flow, the analogy that I've used several times now is the river, like going with the flow of the river. It doesn't mean that it's always flowing at a consistent rate and it's smooth and it's nice and it's lovely and it's peaceful. Sometimes it does. I remember this on a canoe trip that I took when I must have been like maybe 12 years old with my school. And there are parts of the river where there was so little water that it would go so slow, like at a snail's pace. You're trying to kind of canoe and you're not really getting anywhere. And so sometimes you get so tired, you just sit there and let the boat float, albeit very, very, very incredibly slowly. And then there are times where the current picks and there's more forward movement and it feels lovely. And then there's times where it's actually going a little bit too fast, it's a bit choppy, and it becomes a little bit like White Rapids. And this is the flow of life. I don't think it's meant to stay in one cadence the whole time, and neither is it linear. We of course are in the dimension of time, and so we do look at things very linearly and chronologically, but the greater truth when we expand out and we zoom out is it's all squiggly and cyclical, and ultimately there is no time, but here we are in this construct. So the point of all of this is to say that part of the flow might be a very still and stagnant phase, no matter how uncomfortable it can get. And it's interesting when you get to these places, these points within yourself and within your life where you're questioning what is the point? And that it might feel actually very pointless. And, is anything changing? And it feels kind of Groundhog's Day-like. I had so much, I went from having a very long period where it felt like endless Groundhog's Day, really endless. And I just, thought, how am I ever going to get out of this? To spontaneous change, miraculous change that propelled me into a year of really a lot of movement and a lot of change. And then it's felt like these last months have gone back to that plateau where you feel like, okay, back to the Groundhog's Day and nothing is happening. So this is the river of life that I'm experiencing. And I think the last 5 years as a collective on this planet, it's just been kind of tremendous and tumultuous. It feels like a house that has been lived in for decades upon decades, and you're needing to go into not every just closet, but every drawer and every nook and cranny where there's just, stuff under the sofa and behind the cabinet drawer and God knows in what places. And it's like, okay, we're going to take all of this stuff out and we're going to clean it and clear it. And you might find papers and you go through this, oh God, I never knew this. Or like, what is this doing here? Or wow, all of the pieces kind of come together. And I think this is what we're going through as a collective. There's a lot that's being unearthed and unveiled. And there's going to be some things that are very confronting. And there's going to be some things that are very liberating and exciting. And I think we are really only at the tip of the iceberg. But when I said in the beginning that this is we're needing to kind of be samurai ninjas, we've been in a war. We've been in a war. It's just it's not the form that we're used to, right? With guns and bombs. I mean, that is existing, of course, and it's tragic. But on the collective level, this has been really a battle of consciousness where what is being mined, you could say, is our focus and attention. We have lived in a construct, in a society, in a world that has been run by fear, by manipulation, by psychological control. And always from the point of tension, when we look at its opposite, like if that's the shadow, the opposite is always going to be light, right? So the light of that, what that's showing us is that actually who we are. Like we must be so magnificent for some kind of energy or consciousness to come in and want to control it, to make it smaller. Like think about it, I always like to go from the macro to the micro. Think about when you have a dynamic of someone that they're not coming from their healthiest place, they're coming from envy and jealousy and, wanting to control and manipulate someone that's really talented. And they're wanting to bring them down and make them smaller because they're talented, because they've got a gift, because they're shining so brightly. That person that is not in their own light, that sees things as competition, will try to find a way to dim that person's light. Like back in my day when I was a kid, I remember it was, the Olympics and what was it? Nancy Reagan, was it? The whole thing with the woman that like took a bat or whatever, she hired somebody to like knock out her knee so she couldn't skate anymore. That's a really good example of, you could say, a lower consciousness trying to take out a higher consciousness. A being that is in their shadow that is trying to take away somebody else's light. So we see that in competition, right? We see that in like really ugly competitive competition. And I want to speak actually to competition in a moment, but let me finish this thread first. So if you zoom out and see that as a collective, that there is a consciousness that exists that has lost its own light. It's lost its own soul and heart. It's not lost it, but it's so far removed that it's forgotten that. And then it sees the light and it tries to control it. It tries to put it in a cage. It tries to trap it, and it tries to suck and feed off of it. Now, it's really easy as the beings that have been manipulated and controlled to feel like you're helpless and you're powerless. But this time of what I've been calling, that I resonate with more rather than awakening, remembrance of who we are, is remembering how magnificent we are, how full of light we are, how powerful we are. I've really been playing, as I've been... Over this whole last year, I've spent a lot of time going inwards. My meditation practice has become very, very consistent. And in recent months, kind of over the winter break, I have very little distraction in my outer world, because kind of my world is very teeny, tiny. And so there are times where it feels incredibly lonely. I mean, I've become completely disinterested with what's going on in the kind of matrix, the 3D world. I'm just not interested in the drama. And I think you can either choose, as I spoke about 5 years ago, there was a choice point of, you can either walk the path of fear or you can walk the path of love. And I just am not interested in the path of fear, because it just will replicate. It's on a single track that is going in circles, and it doesn't change unless you get off that track. And there is a choice point. There are choice points where you go, do you want to keep on going around in this ring? And just more fear and more drama and more division and more hate and all of that stuff. Or you can choose to get off that track and walk the path of love. And the path of love is going to make you confront yourself. It's going to make you confront your shadow. You're going to see the shadow on the other track even more, because the light brings up, you're going through the house and you're cleaning everything, right? It points the light to everything. So you will have to go through the transmutation and the alchemization and the purging and the shedding and the letting go and the releasing and the, coming up to your patterns and your beliefs and your habits that you don't want to embody anymore because it's not serving you anymore. And you're shedding your skin. This is the year of the snake. You're shedding the skin that you just don't need to have on you anymore. You don't need to live that version of yourself. It's already a thing of the past, especially as we're coming more into the quantum. So I found that I've had many periods of just so much quiet, I say quiet. I live in a very kind of noisy area, but meaning quiet of going into myself, because there's no external distraction, and there are times where it feels really lonely. But what I've noticed is, through the consistency of my being with practice, aka meditation practice, but being with practice, of really feeling into my feelings, my emotions as the gate, the doorway to my heart, and then the portal to much greater fields, like the field and other dimensions. It's definitely attuned me so much more. My psychic abilities are so much more fine-tuned and coming online. So I've been playing around with asking for signs, and it's uncanny, the responses that I'm getting, really uncanny. I'll give you a very quick example. Some are kind of smaller ones that show up within like a minute. Like if I go online, I'll see it. I always hear the word. Like if I ask a question and I ask for a sign, I'm like, okay, what is the symbol or sign for yes to that question? Or what is the symbol or sign to no to that question? And the precision of the response of what becomes manifest is remarkable. So I had a question, and the answer that I heard was a rose. I was like, okay, fine, a rose. And then I forget about it. The next day, I go to the sea and I go on a little walk with my daughter, and we decide to go to a part of the beach that we've never been to. You kind of have to climb over a little cliff, and then I didn't think it connected, but there is a way to come down, and there's a steep little kind of narrow path that comes down into this little cove beach where there's like nobody. So we walk down there, and I look to my right, and at the end of the cove, there's a single red rose. And not only that, like I walked to it, and it was so remarkable because it was in a stone that naturally had a hole in it. And so it was put in that. It was a long stem red rose, and it was right in front of a stone that you could sit and literally just, it would be in front of you, like as if it were on a table. And I thought, wow, like, thank you. Thank you for that sign. I mean, what are the odds? You know, this remote cove beach that you have to climb the back of this cliff and into this, you know, little pathway, and at the end, and it's just sitting there perfectly, like a vase couldn't do it better, right? So why am I sharing this story? Because what I want to share with you is that you know, the whole analogy of the fever, or that as things get worse, it's actually getting better. So what we're seeing right now is the demolition, right? The breaking away, or the purging, which things come up and out, and it might seem like it's worse, and you might feel helpless and hopeless, and that you just feel so small because there's nothing that you can do. But equally at the same time is this emergence and this remembrance of who we truly are and our innate gifts. The kind of the psychic ability that I'm tuning into right now, and this kind of really succinct, uncanny conversation that I'm having with the universe that is presenting itself through the signs that I'm asking for, that's not special or unique to me. We all have access to that. But it takes being quiet. And so, you know, even though it's been painful, I'm seeing, okay, this is the gift of the quietude that I've been in. This is the gift of the loneliness that I've been in sometimes. This is the gift of the monotony and the Groundhog's Day, is that it's forced me, you know, I'm sure lovingly from upstairs, but it's forced me into be with yourself. Be with yourself, Corinne, and go inwards and tune, because if I don't want to be distracted by all of the like drama that's going on, and I don't want to be on that track that's just going in circles, then all there is to point towards is within, and within myself. And that is a portal. And that opens up a whole, not just world, but another dimension. And that dimension is one of frequency, of energy, of feeling, of intuition, of our psychic abilities, we're tuning into the etheric world, right? Not just the world of matter. We're going into different dimensions where it's etheric, but that's where telepathy comes through. That's where you just have a gnosis, you know things, or you can have this conversation with the universe, or your oversoul, your higher self, your guides, your angels, whomever you want to speak to and whatever you want to call them. But it can't happen just through our 3D world where, you know, you're sitting on the couch watching some Netflix and scrolling through Instagram simultaneously, and then being like, you know, I wanna tune into my psychic abilities. Like, the universe is like, no, go get quiet first. Go tune out all that noise. Go to the sea, go to the forest, go to the mountains, listen to the breeze, listen to the birds, put your feet in the water, put your feet on the earth. Remember that we're a society that's been pulled so far away from our natural state of being. You know, I used to love learning about the Native American Indians when I lived in California as a child, because I knew I had a past life. I knew. It wasn't just like, oh, that would be nice. Like, I knew it, and I've had visions of it. But they were that, and the Aboriginals in Australia, and what drew me was their ritual, their culture, the way that they spoke to nature, the way that they communicated as if everything is connected, which it is, right? But again, the shadow that no longer has the light in itself will take the light to feed off of it and entrap it. And the way that it entraps it is through fear and through the disconnect of what is natural, which is nature on this planet. And the planet itself, You exploit the planet. You separate yourself from the planet, from Mother Earth. You will no longer care about her. You separate through competition. This is what I want to talk about earlier. When you separate people, people no longer care about each other, right? And what a brilliant way to set up the dis-ease of this culture and this society by creating games that are competitive. Why? Because if you create a game that seems like it's innocent, where you have two sides that fight against each other and you have a winner and a loser, you set up this psychology to be us and them, winner and loser. I'm right, you're wrong. How does that translate from being a child and, just playing a game, to growing older, where now you have professional games where people can get violent if their team doesn't win, to then you bring it into the political stage of right and left, and you have my opinion is right and your opinion is wrong, to then you have wars. This country is more right. This religion is more right. Right, wrong. It started from the beginning. If you, there was a book called Free to Learn that I read before I had my daughter, and it talks all about, free education and how it works in tribes. And tribes never had competition. They never had competitive games. Everything had to work through collaboration. And children actually naturally, if they haven't been taught by adults, they naturally want to collaborate, and they will collaborate. Even when they hit a point where they bump heads, they will find a way. If you don't interfere, they will find a way to come back into collaboration, because otherwise the game can't go on, right? This is not organized sports. These are games that come from children's imagination. They will always find a solution that requires collaboration. But in a society that says, no, you have these organized sports, and, you have to have teams and sides, and they wear different colors, and they have different, goals, and they have to win, and you have to compete. And, part of the good competition is you got to fight, and you got to have, this edge. What are you indoctrinating? What are you grooming people for? So a lot of people will say in the spiritual community, well, there would be no war if there wasn't a war within yourself, if there wasn't a war within your community. And you could just have war be a symbol and a metaphor for separatism. I am separate from you. You're on that team, you're not on my team. Oh, it's just little league. It's just an innocent game of baseball that kids play. But psychologically, what is it doing? I am separate from you. And separation is really the cause of all suffering, whether you're separated from another person or a group of people or a country or an ideology. But most especially, like if you bring it into the micro, if you are separated from parts of yourself, from your feelings, from your emotions and thoughts, or even, what really taught me emotional intelligence was when I had an ankle injury for 7 years of my life. And how the first probably 6 years of that, I hated my ankle, and I felt like it was separate to me. I wanted to get rid of it. Obviously I needed it because it's kind of hard to walk if you don't have a foot, right? It wasn't until I learned, oh my God, you are a part of me. You are a part of my body. And I've spent all of this time being so negative, hating you, blaming you. You stopped me from having this professional career as a dancer. You're causing me pain. You're the one that's causing me. I can't do this and that and the other. I was creating a separation through hurt and pain and anger. Hurt, pain, sadness, anger, the whole story. And it wasn't until I was like, wow, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I've been treating you this way. And I brought it in with this feeling of inclusion. Oh, you're a part of my body, and I love my body. I love all parts of me. That's when I was able to then heal. And there's no coincidence in that whatsoever. Whatsoever. And then I learned how to do this with my feelings and emotions as a person that is very emotionally based. I'm in the emotional triad of the Enneagram. I'm sensitive. I'm an HSP. I'm highly intuitive. I'm energetically very sensitive. I do have these psychic abilities that I've been told about my whole life that I kind of okay, but didn't believe or trust came in and out of phases where I did trust it or believe in it, and phases where I didn't. But all of it has been this movement towards inclusion, which is the antidote to separation. You've heard this saying, conquer and divide, right? That is their formula. Divide and conquer, sorry. Divide and conquer. We can't be a divided people anymore. We also can't be a divided person within ourselves. All parts matter. So this time of alchemization and transmutation is also a time of cohesion. And what I mean by cohesion is bringing all parts into the center. I like to say that you're welcoming all parts of you to come sit at the table and share a meal together. We have to begin by doing this within ourselves. And then we have to learn how to extend that from ourselves and do that with the people around us, the concentric circles of the people that are in our lives, and then obviously beyond even the people that are physically in our lives. But we're recognizing more and more and more, and we will recognize more and more that we are one. Doesn't mean that we're homogenized, but that we are cut from the same fabric, from the same silk. And it will have to get to the point where as you drop into feeling more, which you're going to be forced to, because that's part of what's happening with the planet and the energies and the frequencies, is it's going to make you feel more emotional and more sensitive. You're being brought down into your body, into your heart. And the language of the heart and of the soul and of energy is feeling an emotion. But feeling an emotion, not in the tail is wagging the dog and I'm completely out of control and the drama and this, it's like, no, true feeling where you tap into it through quietude, through solitude, through stillness. You learn that it is a language, that it is symbolic and metaphoric, and that it is your higher self, your oversoul, and source itself speaking to you through the language of feeling and emotion. But it's going to seem dramatic if you're still in the story and in the limiting beliefs and the blame and the victimization and the division, and if you're still stuck in the kind of matrix that we've been in, right? So it's an extraordinary time that we're remembering the language of who we are. We're relearning who we are. And I think that needs to be the point of curiosity right now, is who am I? Who really truly am I? Not just me as the personality, but who and what am I made of? Where did I come from? What is this all about? But not like the daily, paying bills and taxes and, the domestic stuff, not that stuff. That's the matrix, right? But going into the deeper parts. And so I think, we're seeing it in the astrology, in the energy, in the frequency, in we are been bombarded. I mean, this is why I'm saying we really need to be samurais and ninjas right now, because we are bombarded by the matrix, which is like, we're going to give you more fear. We're going to give you more chaos. We're going to give you more confusion, more drama. And then you have the cosmic forces that are coming in that are just like, sometimes it's like a tornado and a hurricane of just on a consciousness level. It's really can be very, very destabilizing. It's like a big wind coming through to stir things, and it's making us go through the house and clean it up. Not because it was bad or wrong, but it's just, let's let go of all the crap that we don't need anymore, that we as a collective have been holding on for thousands of years. For so many generations. And the beauty within that it's lovely that I had this sign of the rose, because I'm thinking about it right now. It's like, the rose is such a beautiful flower because it has thorns. It has thorns. It has the shadow. It's grown out of shit. It really has. And then it's this most magnificent, beautiful blossom with the most exquisite divine scent. And that is who we are. So to try and outrun the darkness would be to just try and be the blossom without growing through the shit and having the thorns, but still, there's everything is about growth. Everything is a journey. Everything is a process. But right now, our focus is that ninja samurai focus is as all of this crap gets thrown at us, to just like come back to that still point, come back to that 0 point of creation within yourself, come back to the focus of who are you? What do you want to be? How do you want this world to unfold as? Because we are the makers of the new world together. And the makers of the new world must come from a different consciousness. And it must come from a consciousness of love, which is our true nature. Not from the consciousness of the matrix, which has made us small, which has divided us, which has made us competitive, that has brought us into hatred and competition and envy and jealousy and anger and all of this fighting. Right? Fighting within oneself. Oh, you can't have feelings, to cry is to be weak. All of this judgment. Not that consciousness. That consciousness is going to continue to create the same reality over and over again, which is why history repeats itself. Until you get off that track and you go, no, I want to come from my divine, true state of consciousness, which comes from heart. When people talk about Christ consciousness, it's not a person, it's an energy, it's a consciousness. That's what we are remembering to embody again. It's love. It's knowing that we're connected. It's knowing that we are divine, that we are God, that we are source, that we are spirit, that we are everything from the original point of creation. So to be a samurai right now is it's like to be the eye of the storm. Like, let all the flying cows and bathtubs in the tornado swirl around. But you are that focus point in the middle that is still. And you're going to be thrashed about from time to time. And it's going to take such an incredible amount of stamina, of will, which sometimes you will want to lose, of focus, of determination. And sometimes you will want to be like, well, screw this, F this. I don't want to do it anymore. What's the point? We're not going anywhere. But the thing is, we really are. And also understanding that part of this time is you're going to feel into yourself as a human being, and you're going to also feel into and remember who you are as a soul, and that this is a partnership, a union between the two. So sometimes you might need your soul to converse with your human to give it a little bit of context. And sometimes your human, my human definitely has conversations with my soul that's like, F you, this is hard. This shit's hard down here. There's so much feeling and emotion. Sometimes it gets really uncomfortable. But as long as the dialogue is open and the conversation is there, then growth can continue, evolution can continue. And even though it can feel so lonely right now and it feels like you're the only one that's going through this, you're not. Because when you reach out, I write, I share, I put these things out, I put videos out, and I do get comments of like, oh yeah, I feel the same. Sometimes even just reading the comments, which can be a little bit of a scary zone on social media. But even reading other people's posts and going through the comments, it's like, oh yeah, God, we're all going through it together. And even if your struggle might feel so personal, we're all going through it, and we will get through to the other side. But, the only thing that's going to change this is our free will, is our choice. Am I going to choose love and higher consciousness, or am I going to choose fear and lower consciousness? And I know that sounds very like superior, inferior, but they're just simply two different tracks. Maybe some people, some souls still need to play out that track of fear, that track of drama, that 3D matrix. But if any of you are like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be on this loop, on this broken record anymore. Then you do have the free will to choose something that is different, to choose love. And of course, it's going to begin with, okay, what are the parts of me that I'm separating myself from, that I'm creating that inner division? And how, when the challenge and the difficulty comes up, do I just be with the feeling? A lot of people that have been in a bad way. Let's say they've been depressed, or they've been sad, or they've been frustrated, they've been angry, their life has been the same for years, nothing has changed, they're single, they don't have a job, they don't have the house, they don't, they're just angry, they're depressed, they're hopeless, and they've been in pain, right? And they think, well, but I've been feeling the feelings. And I would say, well, actually, it tends to be that if we've been stuck in a loop for a long, 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 long time, we actually haven't been feeling the feelings. We've been at the periphery, just on the very edges of them. And more that we've been in the story that triggers the emotion, but we actually haven't been sitting with the emotion and the feeling. Because when you sit with the emotion and the feeling, it's very vulnerable. That's when the tears flood. That's when the deeper story comes up. Oh God, this is triggering how I felt when I was 4. This is triggering what I was experiencing when I was 12. And you move through that and you show up for these parts of you. I actually just posted yesterday, I came across these photos on my phone of when I was a little girl, 4 or 5 years old. And then when I was maybe 13 as a dancer, ballet dancer. And then when I was maybe 15, 16, and it's like I could see the cheeky little girl and, the innocent girl and the kind of sassy one, and then the fierce, don't mess with me teenager. And then the part that's oh, I can see she's already experienced some of life, and she's felt the loss and the heartbreak and all of this. And then, putting myself as I am today and just seeing that kind of slideshow, that progression. All parts of us matter. All parts of us make us who we are, and we need to remember them sometimes, not as a means to hold on to the past, but to recognize all of the parts of us that we have lived so far. Not a single one of them should we get rid of, because they've made us who we are today. And if there are parts of us that we're still wanting to evolve and we're wanting to get over certain limiting beliefs and patterns and habits, we only transmute those through the inclusion of those parts, and the inclusion comes through love. Let me love you. Let me hold you. Let me bring you into the lap of love and transmute all of your pain and your suffering and your anger and your rage and your despair into love itself, because that is what you truly are. So this is why I say this is a great time of alchemy, of transmutation, of remembrance. And we have these abilities within us. We have the power within us. We have these gifts within us. And so much of it is going to begin to come online, as they say, more and more and more and more. But it will require us to be more quiet, to be more still, to not get caught in the flying tubs and cows of the tornado, but to stay in that still midpoint. So these are crazy, wild times, and it's going to continue to oscillate and fluctuate and expand and contract and the whole thing. And it is requiring so much resilience and stamina within us. There's no doubt about it. But they say that authenticity is one of the most potent, powerful frequencies in embodiment. I mean, this has been my path for the last 20 years of my life, more. And I really, truly do believe that authenticity is one of the most powerful frequencies, because when you are authentic, you are in a kind of truth. You are in a kind of isness. You are in a kind of, you are comfortable within yourself. And when you feel comfortable, safe, and authentic at who you truly are, you're there. Nothing can strip you away or pull you away or push you down or make you smaller, because you are just in the isness of who you are. And that is what's powerful. Power doesn't come from this might of I need to squish you down and therefore I'm stronger and more powerful. Powerful is you can't touch me. Not because I'm defensive, but because nothing scares me, because I've been through the shadow and I've been through hell and I've come up again. And I'm so much greater and vaster and more powerful, because I'm not made smaller by the illusions of the facades, and I need this to make me happy, and I need that to make me beautiful, and I need this to make me feel loved, and I'm not whole, and I've gone through the whole bullshit. I've gone through the thorns and through the thickest part of the darkest forest. And on the other side of that, you're naked, going, I've been through it all, and there's nothing that can scare me. Because there's nothing that can kill me. because I'm infinite and immortal and made of love, and I'm magnificent, and I'm light. And even if your light feels so teeny tiny right now, you know, I'm sure you've heard people say, and this woman Simo was saying this the other day, is that all you need to do is go into a room of darkness with a lighter, and that little flame will bring light to the whole, wherever you're going within that room. So do not underestimate your light. And the more you choose to face the shadow and go into it with your light will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and the darkness gets lighter. This is all a lightening of things. We're bringing light to everything. So yeah, at first it's going to look like a big, messy, disgusting house. Some things are going to scare you. They're going to shock you. They're going to make you sad. They're going to, all of this stuff. But the end of it is this beautiful home that feels like a home because you have nurtured it. You've tended to it with love, and you've ultimately then created it. You've put your energy into it. Don't focus on what you don't want this world to be. See it. It's not about spiritually bypassing, but see it and pour love into it. Pour light into it. You are the maker. Nobody else is going to do it. We know this, right? There is no savior. You are the savior. You are the maker. You are the co-creator. So this is how I find myself traveling through these times. And there are some days where it's really hard. And there are some days where I feel very sad and pointless, and I don't want to be here, if I'm really honest. And then there are the days where I see beauty in the smallest of things, and I come into the quietude of myself and my soul, and it's a feeling of bliss. It's a feeling of home, because it's the feeling of divine source. And when the signs come up, it's magic. And when the synchronicities come up, it's magic. And you feel your heart and your soul smile again. And then you share that with others. You know, I've learned a lot. It's even in my gene keys that it's like, I think the purpose of my life is to go through some shit and then share it. And hope that helps other people. And it's all a learning. That's all we're here for. It's a learning, and it's experience after experience after experience to learn and grow and evolve and stretch and reach and expand through. And that's it. That's it. And you know, who knows how much longer this whole simulation is going to last. But yeah, you know, we sometimes the truth is hard to confront. And it does require the effort to create change. But if we can muster up the courage through our heart to do that, maybe we can have a beautiful time of being on this planet with each other. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't that be lovely? So that's the invitation. You know, the invitation is just, what world do you want to create? How do you want to feel in it? Who do you want to be within it? Ask yourself these questions. And if you're going through a time where it's like, God, this is hard, and I feel apathetic, and I feel like I want to give up, and I'm losing hope, and it's all ugly, like, okay, yes, honor that, be with that, stay with it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. Do it with heart. Do it with even just an ounce of love that can hold it all. Keep breathing. Keep persevering. Know that you're not alone. And remind yourself, I have been made to be small. I have been made to forget. But really what I truly am is I am the light. I am love. I am truth. I am source. I am God. I am universe. I am consciousness. I am these things. I'm all of it. Bring yourself back to that 0 point. And it will guide you. The rest is like, it's not in our control from that perspective, right? What is in our control is how we respond to what is before us. It's a ride, my friends. It's a roller coaster ride. But at least we know that we're in it together. So those are my thoughts. Those are my ponderings, my musings for today. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you. And may it just bring you into your own inquiry, your own curiosity, your own being with. And I just want to, as always, just send so much love, because I think this is what we all really need, to just like, if I could give you all a hug right now, to just hug you and hold you and embrace you, and just to shine the light on you and to reflect back to you your own beauty. Sometimes we see ourselves through the eyes of others, and they show us our beauty and our gifts and our talents and our strengths and our, the values that we hold, and the characteristics and the being and the spirit and the soul that we embody. So reflect that to others and allow yourself to receive that reflection back to you. But I have no doubt, if you're here and you're on this path, you are beautiful. You are full of so much love and light. And even when it's hard, that light and love is there. Give it to yourself. You deserve it. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here in the etheric space with me and loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.